From Charlotte, North Carolina, it's Making Light of It with Darren Stott. Tonight's special guest, Lindell. Featuring Swanson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Darren Stott.
Welcome to Making Light of It. I'm excited about tonight, Steve.
Yeah.
Got the pillow guy that's going to be on the show tonight.
The MyPillow guy.
Yeah. Quick question for you guys. How many of you guys have MyPillows at home? Look at all those hands.
That's a lot of pillows.
Mike's story is incredible. We're going to be diving into some things. Listen, if this is your first time watching the show, this is Making Light of It. And this show exists to shine a light on what God is doing on the earth and to celebrate the power of the kingdom, which is righteousness, peace, and joy. Come on, joy. Come on now, in the Holy Ghost. Let's go. I am so excited about tonight's show. Guys, our guest tonight, he's a passionate entrepreneur, a fearless political activist, and a man who has overcome incredible odds through faith and prayer. You know him for revolutionizing the pillow industry, but his story of redemption and relentless pursuit of purpose goes beyond pillows. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the one, the only, the MyPillow guy. It's Mike Lindell. Let's go. Come on. Come on, guys. Mike.
Just like sleep in the whole wide world.
Mike, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
You know, you have such a remarkable story. I know our time's going to go by incredibly quick. Of course, listen, I'm going to be way more honoring than Jimmy Kimmel. Man, that guy just was a bit of a punk. And I appreciate the grace that you had. You even went back on his show. You did that whole bit where you were inside that machine. And I saw so much humility. I don't know anybody else that would do that. And he was punking on you, and you knew it, and you stood there, and it was almost like seeing you on a cross in a very interesting way. And I just want to applaud your courage and your humility and how you've been walking out your journey, especially this last few years.
Well, thank you. And it's been. What I've had to do basically is to get the word out, whether it's to get the word out about God or get the word out about our election platforms, whatever it's been. I've had to use the attack media and go places where I'm very uncomfortable, and it's worked. I believe it has. The media's attacked me probably more than at least second most of anyone in the world over the last few years, and all the way up to the biggest news outlets overseas. The Daily Mail, they attack me. You name the outlet, they pretty much attack. But I use that. I welcome my out. Their phone numbers are all on my phone. They all have my direct phone number, and I take their calls, and I'll sit there and talk to them till they get tired of talking to me, and I'll say, "You called me." So it's I guess I've gotten somewhat, used to it. I don't know if you ever get used to being attacked, but is it my faith just keeps me going, and it just gives me the power, I guess, the willpower to keep going and keep the faith.
That's powerful. That is amazing. I think a lot of people, according to their belief system, attack would mean that you're failing in somehow. But because of your belief system, where your Savior found his victory in the loss of his very own life, it's almost like you're doing something right when the masses are turning against you.
Oh, absolutely. When I, this is part of my story. When I did get saved, which was February 18, 2017, I could never talk in front of crowds. I was, it's different doing a commercial. But one of the things, I had fear of rejection. Well, you don't get rejected if you don't talk. And when I got saved a couple months later, I went on, I was at US Bank Stadium in Minnesota, and I went there. It was a big Christian event with all these bands and pastors and stuff. And I went there, and they had me talk for 5-10 minutes. They asked me some questions, and about 2 weeks later, I was at an amusement park with my granddaughter, and everyone kept coming up to me. Your story changed my life. I fell in the Lord, and there it was, like I knew I was on the right path in spite of all the attacks on me, and my company getting attacked. It's like it just felt right. And it's like, Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understandings, in all ways acknowledge him, and he will guide your path. And that's what's happened with me.
That's incredible. I wanted to get you on this show because it seems like everything you do with so much joy, whether it's selling pillows or it's sneaking into the Democratic National Convention without a mustache. You're always just having fun, but it hasn't always been that way. We get to experience and celebrate the new creation Mike, like the new Mike, the joyful Mike. But there was once a period in your life where that joy wasn't there, and you almost lost everything. And you talk about it in your commercials. You always say, this isn't who I've always been. And you allude back to a Mike that was struggling with addiction. And we got a little bit of time. Would you bring us into your world before Christ?
Yeah, I came from a broken family. The family unit can be so important too. And I came back. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, back when divorces weren't common. So I got put into a new school, and I was the only kid from a broken home, period. Wow. And it was now, do I blame everything on that? No, but it was just, I became very shy almost. I wouldn't talk to people, or I would show off. And I remember getting to my 5-year class reunion, and I always tell a story. I even tell it in my book. And it says, at the 5-year class reunion, my friends had all finished college or started families or, expanded their, whatever job they had. They had moved up in their job. Well, I hadn't done anything other than dropped out of college in the first quarter and all these things. But when I was at the reunion, I kind of took over the reunion, and I started telling them all about what I had been doing, what had happened to me. I had crashed a motorcycle. I had got 17 tickets on a motorcycle in 2 days, but then I had crashed it going skydiving, got back up on the motorcycle, and then the same day my parachute didn't open. I had all these crazy things. Or I would tell them, I told them about the story where I had bet heavy on football, so I was addicted to sports betting, and as an 18-year-old, I owed $20-some thousand back in 1979 or 80 to bad people coming to the house. So I'm telling you all these stories that no one could even hardly believe, even though they're all true, and it kind of took over the reunion. Everyone's going, wow. But when I got home that night, I had a deep sadness. Wow. And inside me that I wanted what they had. It was just like I said, I was just crying in bed and going and praying. And back then I was praying. I was praying. I guess there were times in my life I would pray and not even really believing. I believe there was, God was out there or whatever, but I'm going, God, I wanted what they have. I want what they have. And God did. He brought me a family. It was I think when I got into cocaine in the early 80s, and then later on it became crack cocaine. But one of the things I think people look at addiction and they say, oh, you're just an addict in the streets. Well, and homeless or whatever. Well, I've been there, but with addiction, it doesn't, in my book, I say it doesn't matter how many forks you eat with, addiction affects everybody.
Wow.
And these comes from wounds from childhood, whatever it may be. And so we become functioning addicts are everywhere. There's functioning addicts everywhere. But I was a very functioning addict for 2 decades. Or 2 decades back then and married with children and 4 little kids. And I was always an entrepreneur too, though, everybody. I was an entrepreneur. I would, problem solution. So my sister flooded a 3rd-story building with her waterbed back in the 80s, and I became a carpet cleaner. But I got, and I had my, tickets back then, driving tickets, DWIs and stuff. I was into, I was an alcoholic gambler, cocaine addict. And then, like I say, and then I ended up buying a bar, multiple bars, which probably wasn't a good place for an addict. And in the late 2000 or the late 90s, I actually, at that time, switched from cocaine to crack cocaine, and things got progressively worse. But I had to sell the bar. It was devastating at the time, but I look back now and things that happen in our lives, you at the time can be so devastating, but then you look back and say, wow, that had to happen or I wouldn't be where I'm at now. God uses all things for good. Well, one of the things in my life, I use, things would happen to me back then, like that were 1 in a million or a 1 in a billion, or this is impossible. And I would add them together and go, this is a miracle, to get through these different things. I had swords to my throats. I've had guns to my head, you name it, and it's happened. And, but I was, when I had to sell those bars, in 2003, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. I had 4 little kids, but I invented at that time a pillow. And it was a patented pillow. Ended up getting a patent. It took, quite a while to invent, about a year. And, but I was turned down everywhere. So I had this parallel track of being a crack addict, plus doing home shows and fairs. And, this went on for quite a few years, and my wife at the time, we were actually making or labeling the pillows in our living room. It was literally lights out in 2007.
Wow.
And at that time, then my pillow was just a little dot on the radar. And on January 16, 2009, in my book, I say, at that time, people always say, well, when you quit as an addict, you reach rock bottom, or so to speak. Well, for me, money, I made sure I didn't have any money because I wanted to make this great comeback with God, all things are possible type thing. But I remember praying that day, going, God, I want to wake up in the morning and never have the desire again. And I'll do this. I know we all have callings, and I knew that that there was a, God was going to give me a platform. I felt I had a big calling coming. Well, anyway, I knew if I waited one more day, I wouldn't have the second part of my life. I wouldn't have that opportunity. That door was going to close, whatever the second part of my life was. And, but I didn't. I prayed that night, woke up the next day, and I was completely freed of the desire.
Wow.
Now that, by the way, then I thought, it was such a radical difference. I thought that's the day that I surrendered to, I gave my life to Jesus Christ. But that wasn't the day. It was just so different. And then as my MyPillow was pretty much gone. Then the guys had stolen it from me and all these other things.
Hey, Mike, real quick.
Yeah.
we're gonna go to a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and hear about that decision and then how it began to catapult a new momentum in your life. But before we go to this break, I just, in the Bible it says that the steps of the righteous are ordered of the Lord. And it just seems like at that moment, like you already believed in the Lord, but when you surrendered everything, you said, God, change my desires. It seems like at that point that righteousness, bestowed upon you. That
wasn't the real surrender. That comes much later. We'll tell you after the break.
We're gonna get into that. I love it, guys. When we come back, we're gonna get into some stuff with Brother Mike Lindell. Let's go.
This is not a drill. This is an emergency. The veil between the natural and the supernatural has been torn. The unseen realms are no longer invisible. Pastor Darren Stott, founder of Supernaturalist Ministries, invites you to join the 1010 Group, a movement of awakened spiritual warriors committed to exposing hidden truths and fighting back against spiritual deception. Named after John 10:10, the 1010 Group equips you with exclusive tools and content to uncover the supernatural mysteries they don't want you to know, like the truth about pyramids, UFOs, hybrid beings, and more. As a member, you'll get monthly equipping videos revealing biblical truths about the paranormal, access to live mentoring calls with Darren Stott and other spiritual leaders, discounts to Darren's Supernatural School, Portals University, and Dream School, a private members-only Facebook group for connection and growth. This isn't just a course, it's a call to action. Join the 1010 Group today and take your place in God's Kingdom Army. Expose darkness, unleash heaven's light. Visit the 1010.group and get started today.
Welcome back to Making Light of It. You guys, we have entrepreneur, self-made millionaire, and minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, Mike Lindell, with us tonight. He's the author of a book, and listen, you got to get this book if you haven't read it yet. It's called What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. And also, please check out Mike's nonprofit. It's the Lindell RecoveryNetwork.org. You see at the bottom of the screen. Please see what Mike is doing to help set the captives free. It's powerful stuff. Mike, thanks so much again for being on the show. And you were talking about this journey of surrender. Right. Meanwhile, this discovery of this pillow thing and how the Lord started weaving all this together.
Right. Remember, everybody, I invented MyPillow in 2004. Now, I quit everything overnight on January 16, 2009. When I woke up, though, the addiction, the desire was gone for my addictions, but the MyPillow company was pretty decimated. So I ended up in the summer of 2011. I told my friends and family, I said, let's get together and we're going to do an infomercial. It's going to be the biggest one in the world. It's going to be, and I didn't realize infomercials don't work. It's usually just to get into the box stores, which had turned me down. Anyway, real interesting. I went to film this and we brought in, I wanted a real audience. And remember, I had problems speaking in front of people back then. And that's one of the miracles that God's done in me. Well, anyway, we brought in this guy this real guy from Hollywood, a real producer, and we were doing our lines the night before, me and this friend of mine that did shows, and he texts the other guy, said, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV.
Wow.
Well, they didn't tell me any different, and that launched October 7th, 2011. It became the #1 infomercial in the world, and it just exploded. Now, I want to fast forward. My book is called What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. Remember, I told you guys earlier, I use mathematics to prove that God exists. And I would always tell God, show me more, show me more, show me more. Well, in 2016, the summer, or 2015, I had seen a dream I had
that I was going to be with Donald Trump. That has to be your next book, Show Me More.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
That's
a great title. Right. So in January, in May of 2016, I had a dream that I was going to be with Donald Trump. And I'm going, what would I be with Donald Trump? I'd lost money in one of his casinos once. I had never watched The Apprentice. And a month later, he comes down the escalator and he's running for president. Well, and now I had never voted in my life. I didn't know a Democrat from a Republican. I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about politics. Well, a whole year went by and I still hadn't met him. And I was on an airplane going to do a movie called Church People. And I'm up in the air, and my phone had set to it. It had a little ding every time I got an email. And I had bought a book about Donald Trump, I don't know, a book in like a magazine type thing, but it was all about Donald Trump. And I got up about 10,000 feet. I was in the bulkhead of the airplane, and I remember shutting that in frustration. And I go, God, would you? I said, I don't know if I have anything to do with Donald Trump. I know I see this in a dream. I need an answer right now. And at that moment in time, my phone dinged. It was an email from Donald Trump. It said, Mike, this is Donald Trump. Will you meet me at Trump Tower in New York City? I'm going, God? And it was like, it wasn't that I was going to meet Donald Trump. I was answered by God in real time, everybody. I'm literally in tears. This flight attendant's going, are you okay? I go, yes, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Now, these series of events kept happening to me that I'm going, these are mathematically impossible. One of them was when Donald Trump got elected, I was invited to the White House, didn't even think with my record I could even get in the White House. And there were all these tables. There was like 14 of us around this table. It was a manufacturing summit. And here's me and the president. I had just met him for the second time there. And the cameras go live around the world, and we're both facing out, and all my ex-crack friends are going, my crack buddies are going, look there's Mike Lindell, the ex-crack addict, sitting next to the president. Jesus is real, because this would be impossible if it wasn't for God. So now everybody, as these things kept happening, it led up to February 18th of 2017. Now at that point, it was like a retreat for veterans. I'm not a veteran. It's called a drop zone. And I went in there with hope that I would have something my gal Kendra had that I didn't have, and it was a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, I went in there on February 18, 2017. I did a full surrender, and I was going, wait a minute. You always wore your cross on TV. I said, I wore my cross in the crack house. I always wanted, and on TV, I always wanted to be that person. But until February 18, 2017, that's when I did the full surrender. And a weight was lifted off my shoulder. It was like a weight lifted off where I could go now and do whatever God's got me doing for this platform that he blessed me with. And, you know, you get up, I guess there's the strength that gave me, as after the 2020 election, you get into January of 21, I was the most attacked person and the most attacked company in the history of the world, especially MyPillow. We were attacked because why? They didn't want Mike Lindell to get the word out to go to paper ballots hand counted. 132 countries have banned voting machines. But I wanted to, you know, once I knew what I knew and seen what I seen, and I was all in for Donald Trump. When I had that first meeting with Donald Trump, everybody, in August 15th of 2016, when I had that first meeting, which they said, Mike, you'll, whatever you do, you'll never meet him alone. You won't be alone. And whatever you do, don't tell him you were a crack addict. Well, I walked into his office on August 15, 2016, and it was just me and him. And he shakes my hand. He goes, Mike, you always wear your cross. Are you a Christian? I said, yes, Mr. Trump, and this is a divine appointment. But it was like talking to a best friend. And he asked me about my pillows and stuff and making stuff here in the U.S. And he asked me about manufacturing. And I said to him, I go, yeah, I was a crack addict. And I kind of looked at him like this. And he goes, he took it in stride because I was so honest and transparent. He said, I'm going to stop the drugs pouring into our country. I'm going to build a wall there. And it was like, I walked out of that office. I said, wow, I've never met a president before, but if he becomes president, he's going to do a great job. And I questioned all of his employees and stuff and said, you know, hey, is this for real? And they go, yes, great man, great boss, great leader. And he had done something for each one of them individually. So I got back to Minnesota and I did a press release against my board of directors. And I was, you can't do a press release. You're going to lose half our company. I said, well, why would I lose half the company? Why would that matter? I believe in this guy. I met him. I did my due diligence. Well, I did that. Remember, I was the media's darling. And all of a sudden they attacked me like they've never let up. And you know, it's a shame, but yet it's, people's eyes are getting open every single day. I said the other day, the bad things are going on in our country and around the world that are happening right now these past 3.5, 4 years. there's a bucket here, and this bucket, people are jumping in from all sides. It's the greatest revival for Jesus Christ in history. People don't look for God when things are going good. They're like me back then, way back when I reached out to God when things weren't going so good. So it's like, I look at all these things. We're in the greatest time to be alive in history. A few years ago, I spoke at the Rose Garden when the President Trump put me up there for the virus. And I said, God's given us grace for such a time as this.
Wow.
We need to spend time getting back in the Word and spending time with our families. And people come up to me all the time and they go, Mike, this just doesn't feel like grace. I go, oh, but it is. We're in the best time in history to be alive as we get more and more people to Jesus for eternity. That's what it's all about.
Mike, I don't know if you can hear our audience, but they are cheering and they're clapping. And let me ask you this question. Knowing what you know now, having experienced everything that you've experienced, would you do it again?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, even going back, if any, from my past, you go back to even my crack days, and I go back, I look at that and I say, I wouldn't change one single thing if that's what led me up to getting saved. Okay?
Wow.
I wouldn't change a thing. If when you change one thing, like you see movie, you change this and this changes. No, I would not change a thing. As far as MyPillow being just attacked like it's been the last year because I've stood up to change our election platforms, I wouldn't change one thing there, even though it's done such damage over here. Because if we don't secure our elections around the world like other countries have, we lose everything anyway. And we're in a battle of biblical proportions. This is a spiritual battle of evil and good that the world has never seen. That's what we're in. And so the media says to me all the time, they'll say, when are you going to give up? When are you going to stop? Never. In fact, they came to Minnesota and the Washington Post asked around to people that knew me. And my friend called me up and he says, his name is Paul. He says, Mike, he said, the Washington Post, they asked me if you were ever going to give up. I said, they'd have to kill you. I said, that's okay. They probably already know that, Yeah,
I just wanted to tell you, Mike, we are so stinking proud of you. And we are praying for you. And we are praying for your business. And we so believe that the best is yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, please go to LindellRecoveryNetwork.org and pick up your copy of What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. And then Mike's next book that I'm predicting is going to be called, There Is More? Or
Show me more. Show me more.
Me more. Hey, in fact, let's have our whole studio audience just declare that out loud. Show me more. 1, 2, 3.
Show me more.
Woo. We love you, Mike Lindell. Thank you so much for watching. Make it right of it. God bless you.
Thank you.